it is going. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah? So you had called earlier saying that you wanted to just come in and talk about some things.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So this is a little embarrassing. I'm a 24-year-old guy and, all macho and all that, but I'm afraid of snakes.
Okay.
And not just like the creepy, crawly, slimy things, but actually, like, I can look at a picture of a snake and panic. So, yeah, it's that bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that before. I was able to look at a real snake and just either run away or just emotionally get rattled, but I would just get away from it. Now I can see a snake in a picture, watching a show or something, and just get really rattled by it, just almost like a panic attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that.
So when that happens, when you see a snake, what are those emotions and what's your reaction that happens in that place?
So there's a connection with my father. He and I converse. Our relationship is not stable. He works a lot. He owns his own business, very successful. And he sort of wanted me to go into the business with him. I mean, he had a position for me, really high paying and so forth. So I don't know how long he envisioned that for me, but he's never said anything to me about it. So recently we had a conversation where I mentioned that my career choice was to be a psychotherapist. And you should have seen the look on his face. It's almost like he turned into this whole different person. It's almost as if he wanted to attack me, you know?
Oh, wow.
I felt cornered. I felt as if he was going to, just the stuff coming out of his mouth seemed to poison my thinking. And so it made me think of him as a snake, you know?
Yeah.
And I'd say that because he's successful, but he has some sneaky things in his business, which I only know about. But it's just his whole demeanor, it kind of gave me the impression that my career choice had no value to him. Matter of fact, you know what he said to me? He said, so you want to give up all this is a man's job, and you want to go into psychotherapy?
Oh, wow.
It's all touchy-feely and all that, and, where's that going to lead you? And I totally disagree with him. I got mad, but I didn't know what to say to him, so I just turned around and left.
Yeah.
So that's why, I don't know if that's kind of like leads to where I'm at right now, but.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just hearing what you had said, just some things you mentioned, I have this worksheet that I think is going to help you just when you have those situations, maybe when you talk with your dad again, just maybe help you not see him as a snake necessarily,
Okay.
and that fear.
I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, keep that down. So I'm just going to kind of explain this sheet to you for a second. So what happens is we have these activating events, and so it starts with A. And usually what like most people think is, so the event happens, so for your situation, you see your dad as like the snake and your fear of snakes, and so that leads to consequence, so which would be like some negative emotions, so it could be panicking and things like that, things you had mentioned. But in all actuality, these A does not lead to C. It actually starts with our beliefs. So it goes from the event, this activating event, goes to this belief that we have.
Okay.
And then, so it's A, B, C, and then it leads to this belief, goes to the consequence.
I see.
So what we're going to do is we're going to try, they're usually kind of irrational beliefs. Not that it's a bad thing necessarily, but everybody has them. So we're just going to try to fix that in a way and make it more rational, so then you don't have those situations occur again.
Okay.
So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you write down, just so you can be a little more involved and can see the change. So I want you to write down the event, which you can have it be that you're just afraid of snakes, or that you saw your dad as a snake.
Okay.
So when I see a picture of a snake, I think of my dad and his demeaning or control talk. Good, good. So usually we would go right to the consequence. That's what most people think. Yeah. But we're actually going to move down here to the belief. What might be behind that? So as you think about this, like, what are some things that come to your mind, like, during that situation, like how you feel, some emotions?
I guess one emotion would be certainly disappointment. Actually, no, anger,
Anger?
because he doesn't value, what I value, and but he sees this kind of like black and white thinking, and won't even consider any aspects of it. Kind of like a closed deal for him.
Yeah.
So that's one emotion, just anger.
Yeah. So where does that anger stem from? So what, does that make sense?
Yeah. So our household was a little dysfunctional. So my dad, the same thing he would do to me with putting me down about career choice, he did when I was a kid, in our home. And so, for example, I remember one time I wanted to go into soccer, and he felt that I should do baseball because it's more of a, maybe a manly sport.
Okay.
Whereas soccer, you're just kicking a ball around the field, the whole day. And so, so he's kind of used the same thought patterns with me, throughout my whole life. But that makes me angry.
Yeah. So this belief that your dad is he demeans you, and that's kind of that core.
Yeah, angry because I feel like I'm a loser.
Okay.
That I am not picking his choice for me for career.
Yeah. So if you want, you can just write that in. Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
In that box there. Good.
So with that, I must be a loser because I am not going into a successful career like my dad's.
Okay. So some of the things as we looking at this, when you're thinking about irrational beliefs, some trigger words in a way that we look for are things like must and should and awful and horrible. You can't stand it. Some things like that. So if you are looking at this, when you're thinking about this belief, do any of them stick out to you?
Oh, absolutely. The dogmatic demand. Because, I feel that I must be a loser because I am not living up to his expectations
Yeah.
for success.
Yeah. So that thought, that process leads to you to have these emotions of, you mentioned anger and disappointment. It's not one of the ones listed, but things like that, which can lead to different behaviors, like being panicked when you see a snake.
Yeah.
So when we take these behaviors, now we can look at disputing that irrational belief. So when you say you must be a loser because your dad says those things and you're not living up to like his idea, just some questions that to help you process this, like, is that logical? Is his idea like the standard? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Yeah. So it's almost as if I am viewing his point of view as being the only way to do something, and not really thinking of, I guess, options or.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you think about this belief that you must be doing something wrong because it's not what your dad says, and you could think of it as there's many options out there. Like, it's not just one way.
I see.
So as we move, so if you see the pattern, we're going A, B, up to C. Now we're at D. So if you want to.
Sure. So I wrote, even though my father feels that I should be in business, there were other options for me.
Good. Yeah. That's good. So now now that we disputed it, we're going to move to the E, which is the last step. And so it's like the new effect. So some ways you can think about it. So back here at irrational beliefs, you were saying, I must be wrong, I must be a loser, But when we look at it through this new effect, through disputing that, here's some examples of things that might help you, but what are some ways that you might be able to think differently instead of saying, oh, I must be a loser? Like,
Okay. Yeah, I could probably think of something. Would you like me to write it down or?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Sarah, I think that I don't think that I am a loser. I have done great things in my life that say otherwise.
Good. Yeah, so now when going back to this event, this activating event, so when you see a snake, and just thinking about your dad and how demanding and controlling he can talk to you, and then that leads to you thinking, oh, I must be a loser because I'm not doing what pleases him, which leads you to feel angry and disappointed. But we realized that even though he said, even though your father feels that way, it doesn't, there's other options for you. So now, because we realize this, we can move to this realization that you're not a loser and that you've done great things. So thinking of all of that, how do you feel now looking at that situation? What emotions might occur?
I would say moderate frustration
Good.
would be one.
Yeah. So my challenge and my hope is that you can take this, and so when you are with your father again, that instead of reacting like with frustration and anger, being able to look at it that he sees it one way and I see it this way, and maybe just coming away with a little bit of frustration instead of being angry, and hopefully improving that relationship between you two.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So what I'm gonna have you do is you can take this with you,
Okay.
just as a guide and to help you throughout your time if you feel those situations coming again.
It's very helpful. Yeah.
I'm glad you could come in today.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you more. So I feel better already.
Good.
All right. Thanks.